What's going on, guys? We're back here with another edition of Why Shit Got Banned. And I was actually thinking about doing Mega Gengar, but then it kind of led me to this one because I feel like Mega Gengar is a little bit more obvious, but it kind of follows the same logic as the primary abuser of Shadow Tag. So the actual thing that was banned in this case is Shadow Tag. Gothitelle itself is not, but Gothitelle was by far the primary abuser of this move while it was legal in OU. And it was useful across a variety of playstyles. In balance and offense, what you could do is pair Gothitelle with like a Mega Gyarados. That was a pretty common core, or Mega Diancie. And what Gothitelle would do is it would take out checks like, say, Venusaur for Mega Gyarados. That's one example. Or it could run things like Specs Thunderbolt. It has a surprisingly deep move pool for just being a pure psychic type. So you could pair it with even like Mega Charizard X to take out Hippos with Energy Ball, and stuff like that. You could trick Chanseys and then your special attacker has a field day. So it was a very universal trapping Pokemon because of the ridiculousness that is Shadow Tag. I mean, you can't really compare it to something like Magnezone or Dugtrio because Dugtrio and Magnezone can only trap a particular kind of Pokemon. And Dugtrio is not that good to begin with. See, like, a lot of it just comes down to Gothitelle just barely having the stats and move pool to actually make good use of Shadow Tag in the OU tier, because obviously Wobbuffet, while effective on some gimmick teams, if it were just Wobbuffet, then Shadow Tag wouldn't have really been banned as a whole. Gothitelle is what allowed that to happen. And I'm sure if Dugtrio were a better Pokemon overall, then Arena Trap would probably be under the radar as well if Dugtrio could make it work the same way that Gothitelle did, where it would be a really high opportunity cost for the opponent of Shadow Tag to really play efficiently. It's kind of like the same thing with Aegislash. Aegislash kind of bottlenecks players into playing a certain way to avoid 100% losing to their opponent's sweeper. And oftentimes that would mean that they lose anyway because of the way that they're forced to play. And that's the main reason that Gothitelle, well, not Gothitelle, Shadow Tag was taken a look at. It was suspect tested, and ultimately it was banned with a 90% supermajority. So that can basically give you some perspective of what the players thought about Shadow Tag, especially in the tournament play, is where you really see how Shadow Tag can mess things up. I would watch replays of people just switching in their Calm Mind Shadow Tag Gothitelle and switching it in on something that couldn't hurt it, subbing up, Calm Minding up, sweeping the team. And then you have to play a certain way. You have to constantly double from your checks to their sweepers that are vulnerable to Gothitelle in order to avoid 100% getting 6-0'd, and it was ridiculous. You can't just bottleneck players into playing a certain way like that with the consequence being a 100% loss. It was the same thing with Mega Gengar, where it would bottleneck players to play a certain way in order to not have their checks trapped. And Gengar was even worse because Gengar overall was a much better Pokemon than Gothitelle. However, its usefulness did not just stop at balance and offense. It was actually most famous for being used on stall teams to combat both offense and balance and other stall teams. So it basically narrowed down stall to just Goth stall, because if you ran any other kind of stall, then you kind of just lost to Goth stall and it just wasn't very viable. And that particular variation of Gothitelle in particular is what really drew the attention to Shadow Tag and the broken mechanics of that ability, because it would be one thing if it functioned as just like a Dugtrio or a Magnezone on offense, where you switch it into a check and it traps it and then eliminates it, because that's what Magnezone and Dugtrio do. So the comparison is very, I feel like, valid. But then when you extend it to the variants on stall, because on balance and offense, typically you would see either a Choice Scarf or Choice Spec set with Trick that is designed to eliminate one or two or cripple one or two Pokemon, and that's all the team needed. On Stall, it was a little bit different because of the nature of Stall, of trying to get your opponent whittled by hazards, whittled by status. It became very conventional to run a Gothitelle that was designed to sweep teams rather than just eliminate one or two threats, and that's where the problems came in. In fact, there were discussions being had about banning just Gothitelle, but the problem is you could do the same thing with Gothorita. There was some, I've seen some replays of Eviolite Gothorita 6-0 sweeping OU standard teams because it happened to get a Pokemon that couldn't touch it to set up on. And I mean, I just don't know what to say other than that. That's just unfair because it really doesn't reward players for building good teams or playing well. They make one mistake and they just pay for it with the rest of their team. Now you could say, well, doesn't that happen a lot with setup sweepers? But the comparison to a typical sweeper like Charizard X is not really equivalent because setup sweepers like Dragonite or Zard X still rely on weaknesses in the team, whereas Gothitelle doesn't because you can't switch out of it. It completely breaks the autonomy of the game, of being able to switch, one of the core mechanics, most essential mechanics of the game. And it strips that choice away from you. Even if you make a mistake and allow a Pokemon to set up, from there, depending on your team composition, you can choose which switch or not to switch is better to give yourself the better chance to win the game. And Gothitelle and Shadow Tag, specifically, it in essence invalidates any opportunity for recovery. In fact, one of the most basic and core elements of recovering a match in Pokemon, which is making good switches. Well, good luck with that because Shadow Tag, bitch. And that was the main problem with it. So that's the sum up of what I think about the Shadow Tag suspect test and ban. I know that this wasn't really demanded, but I feel like to me, this is a very important ban for the late ORAS meta. But apart from this, go ahead and feel free to comment down below what you want to see discussed next on why shit got banned. And make sure to follow me on Twitch because I have started playing Pokemon. I just got done finished streaming about 2 hours of Pokemon Showdown Live. I guess a real Pokemon Showdown Live. I may upload those in highlights, or what I may just do is for my YouTube channel, just record Showdown Live separately from the stream. I also do stream other games like Dark Souls on Twitch. I will also plan on streaming Overwatch and Street Fighter soon. And apart from that, I have been thinking about doing another like Pokemon fan game LP. I've kind of got it narrowed down to like 2 or 3 fan games that I really have my eye on. So be sure to keep an eye out on the channel for that in the next couple of weeks. And that will be separate from the stuff I do on Twitch. I like to keep the Pokemon LPs just strictly on YouTube, strictly pre-recorded. So be on the lookout for all of that. Go ahead and like and sub if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.